My wife wasn't just sleeping with my brother. My own kids helped hide it for 2 years. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I found out on a Tuesday night while fixing Alex's laptop. He needed it for homework, said the Wi-Fi kept dropping. I'm a mechanic, not IT, but in our house I fixed everything. Cars, plumbing, electronics, problems. That was my job. Be useful. Be invisible. The laptop synced to the family cloud automatically. I wasn't snooping. I was updating drivers when a photo folder popped up, nested 3 layers deep in a directory called Archive Chart2, not family photos, not vacation, archive, like something you bury. I opened it. The first photo was my wife Hannah sitting in my brother Chris's lap. His hands were on her waist. Her head was tilted back, laughing. The timestamp said July 2023. 2 years ago. I scrolled. There were dozens, hotel rooms, his truck, his office at the auto shop he owned, the one I'd helped him start. In one photo, he was wearing my Phillies t-shirt, the one that went missing last summer. Hannah said the dryer ate it. Then I found the screenshots, text messages between Hannah, Chris, and both my kids. My 16-year-old son, Alex, my 13-year-old daughter, Lily. Don't tell Dad. Dad wouldn't understand. Dad would just make it worse. Uncle Chris said Dad gets emotional about stuff. Mom deserves to be happy. I sat there in the glow of that laptop screen for maybe 20 minutes. Didn't cry, didn't punch anything. Just read, scrolled, breathed in and out while my heart tried to climb through my ribs. Made a list in my head, every time I'd been told I was overreacting, imagining things, being paranoid. Turns out I wasn't paranoid enough. Chris had always been the golden one, 4 years younger than me, but infinitely more important. Our parents bragged about him at every family dinner, every holiday, every barbecue with the neighbors. Chris is so charismatic. Chris has such a head for business. Chris is going places. And me? I got Luke's steady, reliable. You can count on Luke. Translation. Luke will carry the weight and never complain. When Chris wanted to open his auto shop at 28, I co-signed the loan. Bought him the equipment, taught him diagnostics until he could read a check engine light like scripture. He brought the charm and the smile. I brought the skills and the credit score. That was the unspoken family contract. I was infrastructure, he was the show. Our parents even helped with the down payment on his building. $10,000 handed over at Sunday dinner like a second helping of mashed potatoes, casual and proud. When I asked for help with closing costs on my first house at 30, Dad patted my shoulder and said, "You've got a good job, Luke. You'll be fine." I was fine. I was always fine. That was the problem. The pattern repeated itself at home. I paid the mortgage on a place I'd bought years before Hannah and I married. Worked 50-hour weeks at Morrison's Automotive, brake jobs, transmission rebuilds, hands that smelled like solvent even after nights in the shower. Hannah managed social media accounts for local businesses, flexible hours, creative briefs, the kind of invisible labor that lets people call what she does meaningful. Mine was physical labor that paid the bills. Chris became Uncle Chris, the cool uncle who showed up with new phones, who took the kids to Phillies games and handed out cash like confetti. Alex started wearing Chris's boots. Lily called him fun. Compared to me, the guy who enforced bedtimes, who said no to extra screen time and yes to dishes, I might as well have been background noise. And somewhere along the way, he began sleeping with my wife. The messages went back 26 months. I counted them, because that's what you do when you're trying to make an enemy of denial. The first ones were innocent. Emojis, jokes, a little teasing. Then they slid into flirtation, then explicit. Hannah complaining in public-facing language. Luke doesn't listen anymore. Luke just works and sleeps. I feel invisible. Chris's replies were textbook. You deserve better. You're amazing. He doesn't see what he has. Classic. Then came logistics. The practical details that make an affair operational. When I'd be at work, when the kids would be at school, which hotel took cash, whose car to use. They were careful. Careful enough to keep the secret for 2 years, but not careful enough. I didn't confront anyone the night I found the messages. I closed the laptop, went downstairs, and poured a glass of water. Hannah was on the couch with a reality show flickering across her face. Alex was in his room, headset on, lost in a game. Lily slept through it all in her small bed, a stuffed animal tucked under her arm. Everything looked ordinary. Laptop fixed? Hannah asked without looking up. Yeah, I said. All set. She kissed my cheek later like nothing had changed and rolled towards sleep. I stared at the ceiling until morning. For 3 days after that, I moved through the house like a ghost, smiled at breakfast, packed lunches, went to work, came home, asked about homework, performed the role of reliable Luke, only I wasn't being reliable. I was being methodical. First, the house, titled in my name only. A purchase made 6 years before our marriage, never refinanced. Hannah had always said she appreciated that I took care of the big stuff. She didn't know how literal that would be. I called Jim Peterson, the realtor whose car I'd fixed last summer. I need to sell fast and quiet, I told him. Prefer cash buyer. In a small Pennsylvania town, nobody asks why. They wait to gossip later. I can list it privately, Jim said. Could move it in 2 weeks if you're serious. I'm serious, I said. What about your wife? She'll understand, I lied. Second, money. Our checking account was joint, but the savings, $38,000, had my name on it from before Hannah and I married. I moved it to a different bank across town, opened a fresh checking account while I was there, and then called the credit card companies to remove Hannah as an authorized user. Security update, I told them. 10 minutes, done. Third, the car. The SUV she drove was titled in my name. She'd wanted it 3 years before, but couldn't qualify on her own. Bad credit, old store cards, missed payments. I financed it and had been making every payment. Legally, it was mine. I went to the DMV, ordered a duplicate key, and paid $12 for convenience. Fourth, documentation. I pulled every receipt from our file cabinet, every email, every bank transfer that tied me to Chris's startup, the lift, the diagnostic machine, the compressor, the rent I covered. $63,000 in support, in loans and gifts, all with dates and signatures. Proof. He thought it was generosity, family duty. He thought I never kept score, but I always did. Fifth, I made copies. The photos, the texts, the financials. Burned it all to 3 USB drives. One for me, one for a safe deposit box, one for insurance. Friday afternoon, I told my boss I needed personal time. He frowned, but didn't ask. 9 years without missing a day buys you silence. Take what you need, he said. Saturday morning, I packed a duffel. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, the folder. Left before sunrise. No note, no instructions. Just locked the door behind me and drove. Checked into a motel 40 minutes west. Paid cash, turned off my phone, let them figure it out. By noon, curiosity got the better of me. I powered it on, saw the flood, 23 missed calls from Hannah, 16 texts, 7 voicemails. Then I turned it off again. The screen went black, and for the first time in years, the silence felt like freedom. Where are you? Luke, this isn't funny. The bank says you moved the savings account. What the hell is going on? You can't just leave. We have kids. Call me now. Chris texted too. Bro, Hannah's freaking out. Call her. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. That was rich coming from him. The guy who'd spent 2 years sneaking around with his brother's wife and still found time to post gym selfies on Instagram with captions about loyalty and family first. Alex sent, Dad, where did you go? Mom's crying. Lily sent, Dad, please come home? I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I called Jim Peterson. Got a buyer, he said. Cash offer, 80% of ask. Wants to close in 10 days. Take it. Luke, you sure about this? That's leaving $30,000 on the table. I'm leaving a lot more than that behind, I said. Take the offer. Your wife's going to have to sign. No, she won't. Check the title. It's mine. Only mine. There was a pause. Jesus, Luke. What happened? Nothing I want to talk about. Can you close it or not? Yeah, I can close it. Then do it. I hung up and called a lawyer I'd found online, 1 county over where nobody knew me. Her name was Brennan. 50-something, sharp voice, no nonsense. I explained the situation in flat, mechanical sentences. Adultery, co-ownership issues, asset recovery. She listened without interrupting. Pennsylvania's a no-fault divorce state, she said. Adultery doesn't matter much for asset split. But the house being in your name alone and the documented loans to your brother, those matter a lot. You've got leverage. I don't want leverage, I said. I want them to feel what I felt. There was a pause. Then you don't need a divorce attorney, she said. You need a strategy, and maybe a therapist. I'll skip the therapist. Your call, but if you want to recover those assets from your brother, I can help. It'll cost you. How much? $5,000 retainer, hourly after that. Do it. She did. I stayed gone for 11 days. During that time, I got a job at a competing auto shop 2 towns over, using my middle name, Thomas. Paid under the table, no questions. The owner, a guy named Riggs, didn't care about paperwork as long as I could diagnose a misfiring engine. I could. Riggs was pushing 60, built like a fire hydrant, with hands that could double as catcher's mitts. 30 years in the shop had carved out his patience, and burned away every trace of nonsense tolerance. "You running from the law?" he asked on day one. "No." "Running from a woman?" "Something like that." "She crazy?" "She's a cheater." He nodded. "That'll do it. You show up, you work, I pay you. We're square." I showed up, I worked, and I started talking. Not loudly, not dramatically, just talking. To customers who came in, to guys who worked the circuit, about Chris's shop. Yeah, I used to work with Chris Harlow. Good guy, but man, he cuts corners, reuses parts, charges for new, overbooks jobs, rushes the work, surprised nobody's called him out yet. All true. I'd watched him do it for years, told myself it wasn't my business. He was building a brand, building a reputation. Who was I to interfere? Now it was my business. In small towns, word spreads faster than oil leaks. Within a week, Chris's shop started bleeding customers. Not all of them, just enough to sting. 5 became 3, 3 became 1. The waiting room went quiet. The phone rang less. He probably told himself it was seasonal. It wasn't. Meanwhile, Hannah's job collapsed under its own weight. I didn't have to lift a finger. Just one anonymous email to her agency's biggest client, the kind that bragged about integrity and family values on their website banner. Attached a few time-stamped photos from the archive folder. Her and Chris, hotel hallway, parking lot. One too many smiles. The dates overlap neatly with that client outreach trip to Pittsburgh. 2 days later, the firm reassessed its partnership strategy. The agency transitioned her to freelance status. Corporate euphemisms stacked like sandbags around the word fired. No steady paycheck for her, no steady income for him. Pressure finds cracks. Always does. I heard through Riggs, who heard from his wife, who heard from her book club, that Hannah had moved in with Chris. Temporarily, she said. Just until Luke stops being irrational. Good. Let them play house. Let them see what it's like when the foundation isn't there, when everything that held them up is suddenly gone. By day 9, the cracks weren't private anymore. Chris and Hannah had a screaming match in the grocery store parking lot. Middle of the day, Saturday sun overhead, half the town watching. Cameras out. Everyone pretending not to film while pretending not to stare. I didn't see it live. I saw it later. Someone posted the video in a local Facebook group under the caption, "Trouble in Paradise." In the clip, Hannah's voice slices through the static. She's yelling that Chris isn't stepping up like he promised, that he said he'd take care of everything, and now she's doing all the damage control. Her face is red, her gestures wide, desperate. Chris fires back, louder. Says she needs too much, just like always. That he's trying to keep a business alive, while she spends money like it grows on trees. Then Hannah says the line that ends them. Luke never made it this complicated. Chris freezes. His face twists, all the charm burning off like oil on a hot engine. He gets in close, finger in her face. Then go back to Luke. Oh, wait, you can't, because you ruined that. Someone off camera laughs. The phone camera jolts. Hannah slaps him. The sound is sharp, flat, final. Chris grabs her wrist on reflex, then lets go like it burned him. She stumbles back. They glare at each other. 2 people realizing they've run out of story. He turns, gets in his truck, and drives off. Hannah stands there crying while people load groceries and pretend they don't see her. By dinner, the video had 400 shares. I watched it 3 times. I should have felt something. Justice, maybe. Closure. Mostly I just felt tired. They were eating each other alive. The fairy tale was over. But my kids were still in the wreckage. On day 12, I finally picked up when Alex called. Dad? His voice cracked, half boy, half man. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine. Mom says you stole everything, that you're trying to hurt us. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It came out rough, metallic. Alex, I paid for everything. The house, the cars, the phones you're holding. I didn't steal anything. I just stopped giving it away. That's not fair, Dad. You just left. You didn't even talk to us. I left after you spent 2 years lying to me. Silence. Thick, like the static before a storm. I know you helped them, I said. I saw the messages. Don't tell Dad. Dad wouldn't understand. You knew, and you chose them. I didn't know what to do, he said, voice breaking. I didn't want to hurt you. You already did, I said quietly. You just didn't want to see it. You wanted me to stay blind so nobody had to feel bad. That's not fair. No, I said. It's not. But that's life. You don't get to call yourself innocent. You made a choice. You chose her. You chose him. Now you live with it. Dad, I'm not angry at you, Alex, I said. I'm just done pretending we're a family. I hung up. My hand shook so bad I had to set the phone down. I didn't sleep that night. On day 13, I drove to Chris's shop. It was almost 9 p.m. The lights were still on. I parked across the street, engine off, just watching. Chris was inside, leaning against the workbench, a beer in his hand. He looked smaller, thinner. The golden boy shine had dulled. His shirt was stained. His hair hung limp. Hannah's car was out front. She was pacing inside, arms crossed, talking fast. I couldn't hear, but I could read every movement. Accusation, defense, exhaustion. I watched them for 10 minutes. 2 animals in a cage, they built themselves. Then I got out of the car, walked around the side, and tried the door. Unlocked. Of course. Chris always said, "Who's going to rob a mechanic?" They both froze when they saw me. "Luke," Hannah started, voice sugar smooth, PR tone back in place. "We need to talk." "No," I said. "We really don't." Chris straightened, tried for tough. Set the beer down, puffed up a little. "You can't just walk in here, man. This is private property." "Why not?" I said. "Half this place is mine." He frowned. "What are you talking about?" I dropped the folder on the workbench. Invoices, receipts, loan agreements. The lift, the diagnostic system, the compressor, the lease deposit, the startup cash. I paid for it all when you needed a boost. You said you'd pay me back once the shop got rolling. Chris's jaw worked. But that was years ago. That was a gift. "No," I said. "That was a loan. Signed, dated, witnessed. You just assumed I'd forget. Because that's what big brothers do, right? We carry the load, no questions asked." Hannah stepped in, arms folded tight. "You're being vindictive, Luke. This is insane. You're trying to destroy him because you're hurt." I looked at her then. Really looked. The woman who'd once sworn fidelity, now standing beside my brother like they shared a war story. "Vindictive," I repeated, the word slow and deliberate. "You slept with my brother for 2 years. In my house, in my bed, using my money. You trained our kids to lie to me. You built a secret life and told yourself it was justified. And I'm the one being vindictive?" "You don't understand what it's like," she said. Her voice rose. "You stopped trying, Luke. You stopped being present. You turned into this robot who just worked and paid bills and never actually lived." "I stopped being exciting," I corrected. "That's what you mean. I was boring. Predictable. I just worked and paid bills and kept everything standing. I wasn't fun like Chris. I didn't take you to bars or buy you presents or make you feel like you were 25 again." "I wanted a partner," she snapped. "You had one. You just didn't want him. You wanted a vacation, and you used me to pay for it." Her face went red. "That's not—" "It is," I said. "It's exactly that. I was your safety net while you got to play pretend with the fun brother." Chris tried to cut in. "Luke, man, this is between—" "Shut up," I said. I didn't yell it. Didn't even raise my voice. Just said it flat and cold, like I was telling him the time. Chris's mouth closed. I turned back to Hannah. "Tomorrow morning," I said. "I'm coming back here, and I'm finishing this. No more quiet, no more whispers, no more letting you control the story. You wanted a life without me? I'm going to show this whole town what that actually looks like." Hannah's eyes went wide. "What does that mean?" "You'll see." I walked out. Neither of them followed. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Chris's shop was busy. Weekend oil changes, tire rotations, inspections. Half the town cycled through Chris Harlow's auto on Saturdays. It was his stage, his kingdom, his proof that he'd made something of himself. Not anymore. I pulled up in a rented truck. Behind me was a flatbed tow rig I'd hired from Riggs. 2 guys I worked with rode along. Big guys, quiet, the kind who didn't ask questions. Chris was in the bay working on a Silverado. He saw me through the open garage door and his face went white. Hannah was there too, sitting in the tiny office, scrolling her phone, probably trying to line up freelance gigs. The kids were outside on the curb. Alex saw me first. He stood up, mouth open. Lily grabbed his arm. I walked straight into the center of the shop, right where everyone could see me. Customers waiting in chairs, employees wiping their hands on rags, neighbors passing by who stopped to watch. Phones came out immediately. Of course they did. This was a small town. Drama was currency, gossip the stock market. You couldn't buy groceries without someone trading stories. "Morning," I said loudly. Not yelling, just projecting. Clear enough to carry over the clatter of tools and the whisper of engines cooling. Chris stepped toward me, a wrench still in his hand. His face was tight, color high. Fear and fury fought for space behind his eyes. "Luke, don't do this," he said. "Whatever you're planning, don't." "Do what?" I asked. "Tell the truth?" I turned to the growing crowd. Maybe 15 people at first, neighbors, customers. A few of the guys who used to grab beers with us after work. More were drifting closer, pretending to check their phones, pretending they weren't filming. "My wife," I said, pointing toward the office window where Hannah stood frozen, "was sleeping with my brother." Then I pointed at Chris. "For 2 years." I let it hang there. The words sank in slow, like oil seeping into concrete. "My kids helped hide it. When I found out, I sold the house, moved the money, and left. What you're looking at right now, this shop, this life they built together, they built it on my back, with my money, while lying to my face, and I'm here to take my back home." Silence, the kind that hums in your ears. You could hear the wind push through the open bay doors, rattling an air hose against the floor. Hannah burst out of the office, red-faced, trembling with fury or fear or both. "You're insane. You abandoned us. You left your own children." I turned to her slowly, met her eyes. "I didn't abandon you, Hannah. I stopped financing you. There's a difference, a big one." Her mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. "You wanted Chris?" I asked. "You got him. You wanted freedom from boring, reliable Luke? Congratulations. Now you get to see what life looks like when I'm not the one holding it together." Her eyes glistened. "You're a bastard," she spat. "Maybe," I said. "But I'm an honest bastard, which is more than you can say." Chris stepped in between us, chest puffed, the wrench still in his grip. The protector act, the savior. "That's enough, Luke. You made your point. Now leave." "I'm not done." I reached into my jacket and pulled out another folder, thicker, heavier. Legal paper always weighs more when it's true. I dropped it on the hood of the Silverado with a slap that echoed. "Equipment lease agreements," I said, voice level but loud enough to reach the crowd. "Signed by Chris Harlow. Loans from Luke Harlow for business startup costs. Total value $63,000. None of it repaid, all of it documented." I gestured to the shop. The hydraulic lift, the diagnostic rig, the compressor, the pneumatic tools, each one a reminder of every favor, every blind spot. All of it mine, legally. My name on the purchase orders. My bank accounts on the transfers. My signature on the loan agreements. Chris never paid me back. He just assumed I'd forget. Because that's what good older brothers do, right? We keep the lights on while everyone else takes the credit. Chris's face drained of color. His jaw trembled. "You can't just take it. That's theft. It's repossession," I said. "And I have a court order." I unfolded it and held it high so the phones could catch it. Official letterhead, notarized stamps, a judge's signature in blue ink. "Emergency asset recovery," I said. "Judge signed off Thursday morning after seeing the evidence. Turns out when you loan someone $63,000 and they ghost you, the law says you get your stuff back. Funny how that works." Chris lunged. No warning, just panic, pure and simple. His fist came at my face, wild and sloppy. I stepped aside, caught his wrist, twisted. He gasped, knees buckling. "Don't," I said quietly. He didn't listen. He swung again, left-handed this time, clumsy, fueled by pride and beer and a lifetime of getting away with everything. The punch clipped my shoulder, barely a sting. He wasn't a fighter. He was a salesman. I grabbed his jacket with both hands, pivoted, and drove him forward into the Silverado's hood. The metal buckled slightly under the impact. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. Someone muttered a soft, "Jesus Christ." Chris struggled under me, trying to find leverage. I pressed my forearm across his shoulders, leaning my weight in until he stopped moving. The wrench clattered to the floor, spinning, ringing against the concrete. The shop was silent, except for the sound of both of us breathing. Him, ragged and desperate. Me, steady. I leaned down so only he could hear me. "You spent years standing on my shoulders, Chris. Now you're flat on your own 2 feet. Feels different, doesn't it?" Then I leaned down close to his ear, but I spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "You were always the favorite son," I said. "The favorite brother. The cool uncle. Everyone loved Chris. Chris was special. Chris was going places. You had my wife. You had my kids. You had my parents' approval. You had everything. And you still needed my money to make it work." Chris bucked, trying to throw me off. I pushed harder. "Now you don't have my money. Now you don't have anything." I pulled him off the hood and shoved him back. He stumbled, caught himself against the workbench, breathing hard. His face was red, humiliated. Then he looked at the crowd, at all those phones, at Hannah watching from the office doorway, and he snapped. He came at me again, roaring, not thinking, just animal desperation. I didn't block this time. I stepped in and hit him. One clean shot. Open palm to the jaw, snapping his head sideways. Chris went down. Not unconscious, just down. On his knees on the concrete, gasping, one hand on the ground. The entire shop went silent, except for the sound of equipment being loaded onto the flatbed behind me. The guys from Riggs's shop worked fast, professional. They'd done repo work before. Hannah screamed, "You're a monster, Luke! You're destroying him!" I turned to her. She was shaking, tears running down her face. But they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears, humiliated tears. She'd built a story in her head, the story where she was the hero, where she'd escaped a boring marriage and found real love, where she and Chris were the brave ones who chose happiness. I just burned that story in public. I walked right up to her, close enough that every phone in that parking lot could pick up my words. "No," I said clearly. "I'm not a monster. I just stopped playing support to the two of you. I stopped being the foundation you built your lie on. You said I'd break if I ever learned the truth. You told the kids I was fragile, that I couldn't handle reality." I gestured to Chris on his knees, to the equipment being hauled away, to the crowd watching. "I didn't break, Hannah. You did." She opened her mouth, closed it. Nothing came out. Behind me, the last piece of equipment rolled onto the flatbed. The big diagnostic machine, the one that cost $18,000, the one Chris bragged about on Facebook when he bought it, except he didn't buy it. I did. The guy from Riggs's shop gave me a nod. "We're good." "Thanks," I said. I looked at Chris one last time, still on his knees, the golden boy, the favorite son, the man everyone loved, looking small. I looked at Hannah, the woman I'd married, the woman who'd shared my bed and my life and my name, looking broken. Then I looked at my kids, Alex and Lily, standing on the curb, staring at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Alex's face was pale. Lily was crying. They looked scared, confused, like the world had just rearranged itself and they didn't know where they fit anymore. I wanted to say something to them, something that would make it better, something that would explain. But there was nothing to say. They'd made their choice 2 years ago. They'd chosen the lie. The comfortable lie where Mom was happy and Uncle Chris was cool and Dad just didn't understand grown-up things. Now they got to see what the truth looked like. I turned and walked back to the truck. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said a word. I climbed into the cab, started the engine, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Chris's shop. Half empty now. Customers leaving, equipment gone. The golden boy sitting in the dirt while his brother drove away with everything that mattered. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel bad either. I just felt done. 3 days later, the house sold. I got the check, paid off the mortgage, paid Brennan, paid Riggs for his help. Put the rest in an account Chris and Hannah couldn't touch. I filed for divorce. Hannah didn't contest. She couldn't afford a lawyer. Chris's shop closed 4 months later. Couldn't operate without equipment. Couldn't get a loan to replace it. Word got around about the repossession. Banks don't like that. Hannah moved in with her sister, started over. I heard she tells people I was abusive, that I manipulated everything, that she's a survivor. Maybe she believes it. The kids live with her. I send child support. I don't visit. They don't call. Maybe someday they will. Maybe someday they'll understand. Or maybe they won't. Either way, I'm done carrying them. I'm done carrying anyone.